Listen to me right now, because the landscape of the New Orleans Saints is shifting beneath our very feet. We are talking about seismic moves that could redefine the NFC South for a decade. Sources are buzzing, phones are ringing, and the front office is looking at a complete philosophical overhaul. This isn't just speculation. This is about the identity of our franchise hanging in the balance. You need to understand the gravity of what is happening in the Big Easy today. Before we dive into this madness, I need you to smash that subscribe button. We are pushing for 1,000 subscribers, and I need you on this team right now.
Let's get straight to the business that has everyone in the league talking. Sources indicate that the New Orleans Saints are actively monitoring the situation surrounding Tyreek Hill. Now, understand what this means from an insider perspective. This is not just a casual glance at the waiver wire. This is the Saints front office looking at the most explosive wide receiver in the entire National Football League and asking if the reward outweighs the risk. We know the talent. We know the speed. Tyreek Hill is a game wrecker. He is a defense shifter. You put him on the turf at the Superdome, and suddenly the entire geometry of the field changes for the opposing coordinator. But here is where I need to get loud, and I need you to listen. Are we really prepared to take on this level of risk? The financial cost alone is astronomical. We are talking about a salary cap situation in New Orleans that is already tighter than a drum. Bringing in a contract of this magnitude requires financial gymnastics that would make an accountant sweat. And that is just the money. What about the culture? What about the locker room stability? However, look at this offense. Look at the stagnation we have seen at times. You cannot tell me that adding the cheetah doesn't immediately make this team a threat to score from anywhere on the field. The Saints have always been about bold moves. Mickey Loomis has never been afraid to push the chips into the middle of the table. But this feels different. This feels like a desperation heave or a genius stroke, and the line between the two is razor thin. Analysts are suggesting that despite the baggage and the cost, the on-field product demands this kind of spark. Imagine Chris Olave running routes underneath while Tyreek takes the top off the defense. It is a nightmare for defensive backs. It is a dream for whoever's under center. But is it a dream that turns into a nightmare for the organization's future flexibility? That is the question keeping executives up at night. The discussions are happening. The interest is real. The Saints are evaluating if the explosive upside is worth the potential implosion. You have to ask yourself, do you want a safe team or do you want a dangerous team? Because Tyreek Hill makes you dangerous instantly, but danger comes with a price tag, and right now, New Orleans is checking the receipt before they buy. This is the type of aggressive due diligence that defines championship windows or closes them shut. The fact that this is even being discussed tells me that the Saints are not content with mediocrity. They are hunting for a spark. They are hunting for greatness. But the question remains, is the price too high for the cheetah?
Listen, if you want the truth about these backstage moves before anyone else, you have to be part of this community. Don't just watch from the sidelines. Subscribe now so you never miss a beat on the Saints.
Now we transition to the other side of the coin. And this is where things get extremely interesting for the quarterback position. Reports are surfacing that link Derek Carr directly to the Minnesota Vikings. Let me break down why this is gaining traction. The Vikings are in a position where they are evaluating their quarterback future, and Derek Carr presents a veteran option who can step in and operate a system immediately. For the Saints, this represents a potential off-ramp. We have to be honest with ourselves about the Derek Carr experiment in New Orleans. Has it been a disaster? No. Has it been the Super Bowl caliber play we were promised? Absolutely not. It has been average. It has been frustrating. And in this league, average gets you fired. Sources suggest that if Carr decides he wants a fresh start, or if the Vikings make the call, the Saints are more than willing to facilitate this trade. This is a business decision. The Saints are looking at their roster and realizing that paying top-tier money for mid-tier production is a recipe for remaining in football purgatory. The Vikings, on the other hand, might see Carr as the stabilizing force they need. This trade rumor is not just smoke. There is fire here because it makes logical sense for both parties. Minnesota gets a quarterback who can make the throws and lead a huddle. New Orleans gets out from under a contract and clears the path for a new era. I look at this and I see a front office that is finally admitting that the current path isn't working. You cannot keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. Trading Derek Carr would be a signal to the entire fan base that the team is ready to pivot. It is an admission that the current ceiling is too low. And let me tell you, the tension around this is palpable. If this trade goes through, it changes everything. It opens up cap space, it opens up a roster spot, it creates a vacuum at the most important position in sports. But sometimes you have to create a vacuum to bring in fresh air. The Saints are reportedly open to this negotiation. They are not hanging up the phone. That alone speaks volumes about their confidence in the current situation. They are listening. And when you are listening to offers for your starting quarterback, you are already halfway out the door. The Vikings need an answer. The Saints need a reset. Derek Carr is the piece that solves the puzzle for both franchises, but it leaves New Orleans with a massive question mark moving forward. This is the kind of bold maneuvering that separates the contenders from the pretenders. The Saints are ready to deal.
This brings us to the most critical aspect of these developing stories, and this is where the rubber meets the road. The link between the Saints quarterback and the Minnesota Vikings is not an isolated incident. It is the first domino in a massive, deep restructuring of the organization's payroll. We are witnessing the end of the kick the can down the road philosophy. For years, the Saints have manipulated the salary cap like magicians, but the bill is finally coming due. Insider reports confirm that this potential trade is part of a calculated strategy to dismantle the current financial heavyweights and rebuild the foundation of the team. Think about the sequence here. You are looking at Tyreek Hill, who costs a fortune, while simultaneously looking to offload Derek Carr, who costs a fortune. This is not a coincidence. This is a reallocation of resources. The front office is essentially trying to swap out a massive quarterback contract for an elite playmaker contract, changing the identity of the team from a quarterback-centric build to a weapon-centric build. It is a high-stakes game of financial Tetris. The restructuring plan is deep. We are talking about clearing tens of millions of dollars in cap space. This means painful decisions are on the horizon. The mention of the Vikings as a trade partner is significant because they have the capacity to absorb the contract, which is the key to unlocking this entire plan. If the Saints cannot move the quarterback's salary, they cannot restructure the rest of the roster effectively. This is why the rumors are heating up. It is not just about player performance, it is about mathematical necessity. The Saints are trying to thread a needle in a hurricane. They want to remain competitive by adding a star like Hill, but they must subtract a cornerstone like Carr to make the math work. This is the definition of a franchise-altering offseason. The aggression we are seeing in these reports suggests that the front office knows their time is running out. They cannot run it back with the same squad. They have to shake the tree. The potential trade to Minnesota is the lever that activates the entire machine. If that lever is pulled, the Saints we see in September will look nothing like the Saints we saw in January. We are talking about a new offensive philosophy, a new financial structure, and a new hope for a fan base that is starving for consistency. The risks are incredibly high. If this restructuring fails, it sets the team back 5 years. But if it works, if they clear the books and land a superstar, it could be the genius move of the decade. Everything hinges on this trade. The dominoes are lined up.
We are staring at a completely different New Orleans Saints team potentially taking the field next season. Think about the magnitude of swapping a conservative quarterback strategy for the most explosive weapon in football history, while tearing down the financial structure of the organization. This is a defining moment for the franchise. I need to know where you stand on this. Do you pull the trigger on the trade to Minnesota and go all in on Tyreek Hill, or is the risk too high? Drop your comments below because I read every single one of them. We are in this together, Who Dat Nation. Let's build this channel to 1,000 strong.